So we have arrived at Heartbreaker Dressage Horses, and today we're going to be working Milan, who I've been working with for a little while, with Zoe Kirkpatrick. She's a dressage rider and breeder of Dressage Warmbloods. So yeah, I'm going to be showing you a little bit about the training we've been doing, and also how Milan is developing, and what she's developed from, and the behaviour she was showing and what she's showing nowadays. So here's little Ziggy, the yard mascot, and Milan. You waiting patiently, girl? Look at this, we've got all the whites out today. The white boots, the white numner. Good girl. I think it's time we go do some work. So here we are warming Milan up, and we are teaching her, or reminding her, because she already knows this, to listen to our body language. So when my body stops, I want her to stop. When I slow down, it's to slow down, speed up, turn. I want her to be aware and listening to my body language. So it's like a little game of, if I move, can you stay with me? And you can see she's really responsive to this, and this helps her with her initial problem of wanting to go forward, because she sees it like a game. She doesn't see it as me pushing her forward, because I'm drawing her in rather than driving her away. So now we change the angle of it. So we go from drawing her towards me and asking for walk and trot and halt, to now doing the same thing on the lunge. So it's just from a different angle. So I want to really check that my go command, my slow command, and my stop command are responsive, really, and my turn as well. So there you can see she wasn't as responsive to my body as she could have been, so that's when I applied extra help from the rope. My whip and my rope, when I use them, are always a backup to my body. So what I'm looking for is for her to relax the trot a little bit and not rush around as much. Like there, respond to my body's every movement in a non-emotional way. So when I first work her, I just want her to really take out any emotion that might be in there. She's quite a hormonal mare, so therefore there's lots of emotion involved. And emotion can be a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't want her to be emotional to my commands. So here you can see I changed the angle again. I'm going to do a little bit more of the draw towards me. So I've done some draw beside me, done it from a side angle, now I'm doing it from in front of her. So I want her to, again, it's a game, her to keep the same distance from me without me having to slow her down to stop her running me over, speed her up by dragging her on the rope. And you can see I'm working on my transitions. What I'm trying to do is repeat the ask of come forward, come forward, come forward, come forward, again and again, so she understands that, okay, it's just a little command. There you see I had to make a correction, and you see the emotional response from her. So this is why I do the warm-up, to help her realise that actually the answer is not to be emotional. And there you can see she's accepted that. Oh no, a bit more emotion. So there we were going past the gate, and what she used to do past the gate is stop, rear and spin. The nappy behaviour, especially going forward. So you can see a little bit of what we did have there in that expression from her. So what I will do with her is ignore that, work through it, and just repeat until I get a less emotional response to walk, stop, and my corrections. Because every time I correct with the hand or the leg on board, I don't want an overly emotional responding horse, or a horse that is not thinking in a positive way to what I'm asking her to do. Now it's Zoe's turn, because obviously it's important that she listens to me and also listens to Zoe, as Zoe is the one who rides her. Zoe, keep your feet still. So now Milan has a lot of aids and instructions. You can see there that Zoe was moving backwards away from Milan. So we've taught her that's a draw command. So when our body moves back away from her, to come towards it. So if we want to send her away, we've got to be very, very aware of how much this horse knows now. Because if we start confusing her by asking two things at once, it's like putting a car, pressing the accelerator and the brake at the same time. It won't do much good, and it'll encourage, or not encourage, but it will maybe present more of an emotional response due to confusion. Okay, and walk to canter. So we can see in this walk to canter, Milan performs the movement well, but there's a little bit of that attitude with that head twist to the side when asked to go forward and exert more energy. This is something to be aware of, as it may develop into more attitude if we don't solve it now. But we work through that. Now it's time to get on and ask for some stretch in the walk. So with the stretch work, we're really working on Milan, giving her the opportunity to stretch forward, because previously when she showed rearing, spinning, napping behaviours, we haven't given her the rein because that would be silly, because we would probably end up on the floor. But now with her mindset changing, we need to start trusting her more. And if there's too much inside bend and too much inside rein, the horse cannot stretch down. So it's a little bit of a defense mechanism we have as riders to hold a little bit too much inside bend, but what that does, especially in the stretch work and in normal work as well, means the horse is less likely to want to stretch down as far. So it's now breaking that cycle in Zoe's head that this horse is going to want to stop and rear at any moment, and trusting her a bit more, and Milan allowing us to teach her as well. So we're about to see a one rein stop, and we taught Milan this movement as a little bit of a get out of jail free card. In order for her to stop and give her head like so, her back has to be relaxed. So it's a little bit of a reset button. Should we need it if she decides she wants to show us behaviours we don't want or has too much attitude. Longer. There, good. Good. Tell her that's good. Longer. Very good. Keep your hands wide, close to the body. There. There, let her take it down. Good. Let her take it down. Get off that inside hand. So you can see here, when there's too much inside hand, the head bends to the neck and it can't stretch down and forward. Also, Milan has a tendency to want to tuck her nose in rather than stretch out. Good. With the outside, keep the inside forward. Nice, keep the inside forward. Good. Next time round, change the rein somewhere. So we're working on Milan feeling comfortable to hold her head near her knees for a longer period of time. And this doesn't mean her head at her knees with her nose tucked in. It means her nose pointing out towards the floor. The problem that will occur with a horse like this is if she feels trapped by the rein, she'll stop and rear. Or spin or plant or something, not wanting to go forward. So we really need to encourage her to just unlock her mind, unlock her body and stretch a little bit more rather than be a mass of tension. So this horse is a very sensitive horse, if you haven't imagined already, and it's very sensitive in the mouth, so our hands need to stay super still. If this horse feels an inconsistency in the hands, then like you can see, its head's gonna rise, it's gonna come up and down. This is quite common in a lot of horses, and actually if we manage to hold the reins like we're holding someone's hand rather than squeeze them too tight or hold them too tight, then and let the horse do it themselves. Usually, like now, you can see that consistency in the body, in the head, in the neck. That comes from her being left alone and when she's in that right position and not played with too much. So once we've stretched the body, we're going to pick Milan up into a more normal contact. What we want to make sure is that she's not leaning on her hand too much, but also that we're lifting the wither
Keep your legs
up.
rounder. Keep her round.
And we'll warm up the same way. We'll walk, stop, walk, stop, walk, stop. Lots of transitions. And just ensure that she's not now leaning on the hand, because it's there. Like there, you can see a little bit that she's leaning on the hand. And she's a little bit heavy in Zoe's hands. So what we want to start doing is lifting our hands to lift the wither. Okay. Lots of people think that you have to keep their head round and in, but that's only for me a secondary effect for after lifting the wither. So you can see Milan's round. She's a little bit inconsistent in the contact. So what we need to make sure we do is keep our hands super still and not playing too much, because like I said earlier, this horse is very, very sensitive. In all areas, not just in the mouth, but it comes across with the in the mouth as well.
Okay, trot. Is that how you ride Ramsey?
Right, if I can ride it like you ride the other horse. So there, Zoe got told off for burying her hands too much and riding this horse too defensively. It's important once the horses have started in their training to start trusting them a little bit more. So this is okay work. Zoe's hands are fairly high, but you can see a little bit of movement in the hands. This is what Milan is used to and she's comfortable with, but in order to lighten her up and lift the wither, we need to soften her response to the rein pressure and lift the wither up with our hands. It's very good to see Milan moving forward like this, because she used to be a little bit evasive to the leg and moving forward off the leg. So she's really responding to that. So now we need to change that forward momentum and energy into upwards energy. So we can see here Milan is working Zoe quite hard. She's relying on the rein. If you took a pair of scissors now and cut those reins, I want you to imagine, or I want it to be, that her head won't fall off and hit the floor. Yeah, I don't want her leaning on our hands so much. So I'm going to put in, you got to remember guys, this horse is a young 4 or 5 year old. I can't quite remember, but it's a young horse with not a lot of experience, not a lot of education. So we're educating these horses on small, super small things, because the aim of this horse is to make a Grand Prix horse. So it's very advanced stuff, and it's basic stuff but in small details to make the advanced horse. But any good horseman will tell you that a good horse comes from, or good schooling comes from, doing the basics right. So just here we see Milan there for 3 or 4 strides, holding herself and then dropping on the hand and holding herself again. So now I've jumped on to have a little feel of what's going on as well. So purposely I'm riding with my hands very high to try and lighten Milan up and get a little bit of self-carriage. I don't want to be holding her around the ring. Yes, if I'm in a competition, I can hold her around the ring. But at home, I want to be schooling her. So like there, I offer my hands forward and she holds herself there. At the minute, it's not about a pretty picture. It's not about her going around with her head tucked in looking all beautiful. It's about putting the fundamentals in place in order to gain the higher levels of movements. Like there was lovely. Round that corner, I didn't have to correct her and hold her. There, again, she's holding herself. And when she's holding herself, I don't want her to speed up as well. There, nice, good. And yes, it's inconsistent, and yes, her head goes up in the air a little bit, and my hands are very high. But this is all part of the training at this point for this horse. At times when she goes heavy, yes, I will hold the reins and lift them up with quite a lot of contact. But I want to keep that for a short amount of time, so then I can go light again. My ideal is I can go round with a light contact for a longer duration, and when I have to correct, I'll correct, but then I'm straight back to her holding herself again or being light. You can now see she's just starting to rely on me a little bit less. She's holding herself a little bit more, and it's small steps at a time. But I like the fact that she's willing to let me help her, aid her, and correct her.
Change the rein, good. Leg. Don't do anything with the hands, just add the leg in. Good.
So this little
Good.
section here is really lovely. Milan's floating, the front end's up, so he's still. I really like that. And the evidence is in her head carriage and in her neck, in the shape that she's making. Real nice. And the trick is doing less and also teaching her to lower her head or come onto the contact, if you like, from leg pressure, not rein pressure. And that's correct anyway, but even more reason to do it when you've got a hypersensitive mare, especially in the mouth.
There. Nice. Well done. Good. Perfect. Is it sinking in? Nice.
I get the principle. I just don't know why I'm fucking doing it.
No idea.
If you worked hard, a bit sweaty, aren't we? Been a good girl.
So I've been working with Zoe and Milan for about the last 5 or 6 months now, and Zoe produces and rides dressage horses, and Warmbloods in particular, and breeds as well. So Milan, we started work with her because she was doing really well in the dressage arena, but there was a little something missing in the fact that her want and try for the work we needed her to do was a little bit off. So she wanted to stop and rear was her main trick really in going forwards. Although she did go forwards, sometimes it was on her terms. And obviously when you're riding in dressage arenas and dressage tests and entering competitions, you can't really rely on whether the horse has a good day or bad day. Obviously you do get good days and bad days, but if Milan came out and didn't want to perform or didn't want to do anything, then we can't really rely on that all the time. So we've been doing a little bit of work to encourage Milan to want to try a little bit harder, look for us for the answer, and to be a lot more willing going forward. Zoe, tell us a little bit about you and your horses and what you do and things like that.
So I own Heartbreaker Dressage Horses, which is a yard where we basically breed high quality dressage horses for sport. Milan, who we've been working with, is a 5-year-old Dutch Warmblood. We brought her over from Holland as a just back 3-year-old after she'd done the mare tests, which is basically the mare gradings for breeding. When she came to me, she was a super cool 3-year-old, but it became apparent after a few months that even though she found the work quite easy, she started to say no, became a little bit nappy and not really very happy in her work. So that's why we're ready.
So it's quite a different approach for a lot of dressage riders and dressage trainers to then go to a natural horsemanship type way of going to train their horses. Obviously we're having great results with Milan, but I wanted to get a little bit more from you. What made you take the plunge, if you like, to go to a more natural horsemanship style training for Milan?
I think because with the conventional way we tried and it just didn't really work, and I think with Milan it was more mentally. I began to see some things with her on the ground which made me think that it needed to be addressed there as opposed to on the saddle.
So we do a lot of stuff on the ground, and we did in the initial days a lot of groundwork with Milan. She didn't have a preconception really to groundwork as much as in the saddle, so that really helped to change her association to people, to work, to being in the arena. We then transferred this way of going, this mindset, into being under the saddle and being ridden as well. So why I love working with you and what you're doing in the dressage is because it's all the same thing, and the point I'm trying to get across to people is, yes, it's addressed natural horsemanship, but really it's good horsemanship. There shouldn't be such a divide. So we'll be going out, we'll be taking Milan places, we'll be doing dressage competitions and things like that, and really trying to just get the point across that actually it's not a big difference. And I mean, are you seeing, obviously you train with some of your other horses with Gareth Hughes, are you seeing a massive difference really in the principles and the way in which we're training, or not? Like, what's the difference between how I'm training and the style compared to his? Is there a big difference?
No, I don't think there's a difference really at all. It's just with Freddie, it's enabling us with Milan to work on the basics, which maybe we'd sort of skimmed over, and that's why the problems have now arise. So working on her weaknesses, because I like to think she's perfect, but she's not. So yeah, actually being really nitpicky about her way of going now, with the view that we're training her up the levels to be an advanced dressage horse. Cut it now.